Good evening. I'm Ed Murrow. The name of the program is Person to Person. It's live. There is no film used. Tonight we're going to visit a successful and well-known author and a great actress. In one home, you will find a $100,000 portrait. In another, you will find packing cases and no furniture at all. We're going to go and visit Miss Tallulah Bankhead. And then we're going to go and visit Mr. and Mrs. Teddy White. Teddy White is the author of Fire in the Ashes, the Book of the Month Club selection for November. We'll be ready to go in just 20 seconds.
Long distance, Maine to Florida.
The American Oil Company, the drillers who produce oil, the scientists who refine it, the seamen who transport it, the men who deliver it, and the Amoco dealers who serve you, all the Amoco people, calling you person to person.
Not long ago, a reporter went to visit Miss Tallulah Bankhead, and at the end of the interview, he said, "Miss Bankhead, I just want to tell you how nice you are." And it is reported that Miss Bankhead said, "Please don't print that, otherwise you will destroy my reputation." A great many things have been said about Miss Tallulah Bankhead, but two things certainly can be said. One, that she is a superb actress, and two, that she is a personality that no one can ignore. Miss Bankhead has a charming home in Bedford, New York. The only trouble is that she finds herself in the city almost as much as in the country. And when she's in the city, as she is now, a hotel becomes her home. This is the Ambassador, which is frequently the temporary home of Gene Sarazen, the golfer, Gene Autry, the cowboy, Hoagie Carmichael, the songwriter, and Jose Iturbi, the pianist. Up on the 6th floor suite should be Tallulah Bankhead. Are you there, Tallulah?
Well, darling, what's left of me is here.
Thank you. Tell me, why do you call everybody darling?
Now, you know why, because I can't remember names. It all began when I was a very small child. Being brought up in a political family, you know, the first thing to learn is to remember people's faces and their names. Well, I couldn't. I think my father and grandfather knew everybody in Alabama by their first name. But I probably in those days said sugar or honey. But then when I got a bit older, I switched to darling, and in my travels and experiences around, I've met so many people, I don't think it hurts their feelings by just calling them darling if I don't remember their names. Does that please you?
Oh, Tallulah, I have read so many things about you, and some of them, as you know, are contradictory. Why don't you take about 20 or 30 seconds and describe yourself?
30 seconds? Gracious. Well, now let me see. If I may be wildly optimistic, I would say that I was divinely impossible. At least that's the consensus opinion of my friends, my closest friends. Of course, they're very tolerant, Ed. Otherwise, they wouldn't be my closest friends.
Well, you still have 15 seconds left, but tell me, you have something of a reputation for collecting animals. Whatever became of that lion you had?
Well, darling, that lion, Winston Churchill, you mean, huh? Well, I had to finally give him up at the zoo. I didn't realize it was illegal to have him in hotels anyway, but I smuggled him in and out and would cough hectically which was very easy for me with my chronic bronchitis and smoking too much. In the elevators, for fear that he would roar. I didn't realize the lion didn't roar until it got much older, but I finally gave him to the Bronx Zoo. And I'm told he's the most ferocious animal in the zoo.
Is it true that you have what has been called a zoo complex?
Well, I love all pets, darling. I just don't, why I never really walk New York. I don't dare pass a pet shop, and I never know where they might appear. Here's not my favorite. I love them all the same, but this is Dolores. She was given to me by that divine piano player Joe Bushkin and his wife Fran for my birthday, and she was named after the baby dragon of Kukla and Fran. You know Dolores, the baby dragon?
Yes.
Then I brought down my Siamese cat, but she's impossible. She was pulling out all the plugs and cables, and if we suddenly should go off the air, it'll be the cat's fault, but I can't get her. She won't come at call.
Well, if we have a technical breakdown, we'll blame it on the cat.
Good.
Tallulah, what's the picture on the coffee table there, just in front of you?
In front of the roses there? Well, that's my mother and father, Ed. It's a picture I always have in my dressing room on an opening night, of course, and keep it there during the run of the play. That's a ritual with my mother and father's photograph, and I always kneel down and say, "Dear God, don't let me make a fool of myself." And my Rose and my Edie, who look after me, we drink a glass of champagne, and then the rest is in the lap of the gods, as they say, and it's exactly what we did tonight. Because this is really the most frightening experience. At least on the stage, I know what I'm going to say and do. How well I do it is a different question, but I don't know what you're going to ask me next.
Well, the other picture on the table, is that your grandfather?
Yes, that's Granddaddy, the Senator Bankhead.
Well,
See, my grandfather was a senator, my uncle was a senator, and my daddy was a congressman and Speaker of the House during the Roosevelt administration.
Well, with all this political background, your father and your grandfather, were you ever tempted to have a try at politics?
Never, darling. No, I leave that to the Solons of the family. Wouldn't dare. I have very violent opinions, as I'm afraid you know, but I'm entirely emotional, and all logic and reasoning goes out of the window, and I think I'd do more harm to my cause than good if I went into politics.
Well, emotion is not altogether missing from the House and the Senate these days, is it?
Well, let's not go into that, shall we?
Tallulah, the portrait that is just behind the couch there.
Yes, darling.
Is that the famous Augustus John, one of you?
Yes, that's the one that was hung in the Royal Academy in 1939, I believe, and it's supposed to be by art critics. Of course, it is by a famous artist, Augustus John, but during that year, it got by the great art critics as one of the finest portraits, modern portraits of its time. Of course, I'm saying that modestly. I had nothing whatever to do with it, but I think he's such a great artist, and I'm sorry you can't see the coloring because it's very delicate, and in black and white, I don't really know how well it shows up. Am I standing away from it? Can you
No,
see
it's
it?
very fine, thank you.
Good.
Do you have any other portraits or pictures that you're proud of, Tallulah?
Well, I have one that I'm very honored to have. It was given me by a friend. It's of John Barrymore. It was made by his great friend, John Decker, and it was
Yes.
on the cover of his biography written by another friend of his, Gene Fowler, and I loaned him for the cover of his book, Good Night, Sweet Prince. I also have one of Ethel Barrymore, which she gave me a copy of her Sergeant one. And apropos of paintings,
Well, you're a painter of sorts yourself, aren't you?
well, now, this is a gag and a joke, but I couldn't resist it because it seems that all of my friends and all the amateurs in the world are painting, so I've done 3 paintings. 3, they're the last I'll ever do, so shall I show them to you?
Yes, please do.
Okay, well, follow me. Am I going too fast for you?
No, fine.
Okay. Well, darling, this one over here is the first I did. It's a little corner of my living room in Bedford Village, New York, in New York State, Westchester. And here comes Dolores. And there's some flowers, and there's a lamp, and that is where John Barrymore's picture really is, but I had to make a mirror out of it. And then there's this one, which has Dolores. Can you see her? She's there on the sofa. That's the second one I did.
Oh, yes, just faintly I can see Dolores.
Well, these have been loaned me. I'll have you know, if I may boast, that 2 of my friends, and the one who owns this is a really good artist, Philip Hall. He does beautiful murals. But I think he didn't detect much talent in me as a painter, but he just loves Dolores like I do. Now, here's the last one I did, and really the last. This is my, am I covering it, darling? I really don't know.
No, it's fine. It's excellent.
Well,
Well, that's the stairway in your house, isn't it?
Yes, sir. It's the red steps. Unfortunately, I'm sorry you haven't seen it. One day I hope you will come up. But I can never paint anymore because I have to take practically a bath in turpentine when they're over. I don't know how artists keep from getting smothered with these oils and things. So that's really my last painting.
And you're sure that's your last painting?
I am almost positive.
I don't believe it. How long did you work on that one, Tallulah?
Well, just a couple of hours. Otherwise, I got so bored I couldn't have gone on with it, you know.
Well, how's your book going?
Well, here's the copy that the general public had, and this I am quite proud of. This is presented to me by Harper & Brothers. It's the 2.5 months after the book came out, and it's just like the regular book, except it's beautifully leather-bound with the gold leaf, and it has just one extra page in it. The volume of Tallulah has been specially prepared by the publisher for presentation to Tallulah Bankhead to commemorate the printing of 100,000 copies of the book, December 1952.
Well, that answers the question. It's doing very well.
May I get in a plug for my book?
How do you work as an author?
Oh, don't ask me that. I'd be here forever, darling. I don't know how I ever got it together, and I couldn't have without the help and assistance of my great friend and advisor, Richard Maney, who unscrambled my metaphor, shall we say, and helped me with it. But I just talked with a dictaphone and I don't know how it ever happened. But it's coming out in the pocket edition in January. Plug.
Good. Now, let's turn to another subject. What did you think of Roy Campanella getting the Most Valuable Player Award, Tallulah?
I was delighted that he got it. course, I'm sorry I didn't belong with the Giants, but next year I hope that I think maybe Willie Mays might get it. He's coming back with us, you know.
What do you do for relaxation when they aren't playing baseball?
Well, I watch you on television, see? By the way, this is a trade that was given me by the baseball players of, the baseball writers to our gal Tallulah from our guys, the New York baseball writers, February 1953, and I'm very proud of that. Well, darling, here is another thing I watch on television besides you.
No, I wanted to ask you about that because there's a rumor that you are related to a dragon.
Definitely. Now, darling, I'll have to fix this because I don't do this very expertly like you had last week, those marvelous puppeteers. And this is given me by Bert Tillstrom, creator of the Cooperpolitan Players. And I got that for a Christmas present. And his name is Precious. I don't really know how he talks because Bo hasn't had time yet to give him a voice, but we speak the same language by thought control, you know.
You handle him just as well as the Bairds handle their puppets, Tallulah.
Well, he's very shy. Darling, aren't you? Well, I'll put her back yet.
Tallulah, what's the most satisfying experience that you have had in your years in the theater?
You mean as an actress?
Yes.
Well, I think the same might apply of every actress. The three best plays I've been in, actually, which one of the first really fine play I was ever in was in London. I did They Knew What They Wanted, which the great Pauline Lloyd did here. It was a Pulitzer Prize play by the late Sidney Howard, and then The Little Foxes by Lillian Hellman, and then The Skin of Our Teeth, another Pulitzer Prize play by a divine Thornton Wilder. I think those three were the most satisfying because the plays were so fine. I've enjoyed comedy things. I did A Cardboard Lover, which Gene Eagles did in America. I did in England with Leslie Howard, and I've enjoyed very much after about the first few hundred performances, went to 1,000. I got kind of tired of it. The Revival of Private Lives by Noah Coward. But I think that those three plays are the only really great plays I've ever been in.
You know the greatest thing I ever heard or saw you do?
What was that?
In a Red Cross program, I think about 2 years ago, when you read a story that had been filed from Korea about a little Korean boy named Kim O'Reilly, who had been adopted by an American sergeant. And when the sergeant was wounded, the little Korean boy cut his wrist and put a quart of blood beside the sergeant, and then went away. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do. As a matter of fact, that's the first time I had the pleasure of meeting you. And I'm awfully pleased you liked that because it was a heartbreaking story, and even just your reminding me of it makes me want to cry again. And one good thing did come from it. There were marvelous responses for blood donations apropos of that program that so many artists contributed to. I always feel very shy, Ed, when I ask people to give blood because I have anemia and I'm not allowed to. But I do think that heartbreaking little story did move people tremendously. Now, I take no credit myself. The subject matter itself was so moving, you know. But I appreciate so much you're enjoying it and liking it.
Tallulah, what are your immediate plans for the future?
Well, I'm going to do Hedda Gabler on the 5th of January, I think, for the Theatre Guild of the Air, the next thing. Then I'm going to be a guest again on Milton Berle's show and going to be a guest on Gemma Durante's. And I go to Las Vegas, the Sands Hotel, for a month. And then I come back to New York, and with possibilities, with all things equal, that I'll have my own show, a television show next year. I want to play a little joke on you. When you asked me about pictures, now this is something your friends, that are now my friends, I hope, these darling people who've been here all day. Now, I want you to see, you know all these people. I want you to guess. Can you see the picture? Where? Is that right?
Yes, I can see it.
Do you know who that is?
Well, no, I don't, but Tallulah, I'm sure that you know the individual, otherwise you wouldn't have the picture there.
No, you...
Two, I ought to know him, otherwise the question wouldn't be fair, but may I just make a guess?
Yeah.
I remember Mr. Winston Churchill once saying that all small babies look like me.
I knew they wouldn't fool you.
No.
But one of your charming friends who assists and helps you said, let's play a trick on Ed because he may not know it. You know, this was given me by another great admirer of Mr. Churchill, Sir Winston, Florence Reed, great actress. And so it was quite a sacrifice on her part to give me this picture because it's quite valuable. It says on they'll always be in England, and then it continued, of course, that beautiful speech when we shall fight on the beaches and all. Well, I'm sorry I couldn't fool you because I didn't know what you were going to ask me, so I thought at least I could surprise you and put you off base, too.
Well, Tallulah Bankhead, thank you very much indeed for letting us come and visit you this evening.
Well, thank you.
I am most grateful. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now, in just a moment, we will be going to the home of Mr. and Mrs. Theodore White.